Yo, what is up? It's the Cosmic here.
Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Anonymous Traders StockCast. And today I've got a special surprise for you. This is actually going to be a 3-part series on pot stocks. Yes, the marijuana sector is going to be blowing up very, very soon, and I'm going to go into why. And the reason why it's going to be a 3-part series because unlike most of my case studies, I don't go over just 1 or 2 tickers. I'm going to go over 15 tickers that I think everyone should put on their watch list to watch over the next coming up year at least. So without further ado, let's get started. There's no doubt that one of, if not the hottest, rapidly growing sectors is pot stocks. Albeit this year has been kind of a bad year for them, a bad year for the whole market with that fact, but that I digress. Since the legalization of cannabis started to explode all over North America, we're starting to see these cannabis and hip-based businesses explode. Whether it be from cultivation to finance, there's no shortage in different kinds of business models that are taking advantage of these quote-unquote high-moving sectors. Today, like I said, I will be going over my top 15 pot stocks to watch in this medium to long term. Now, this video is going to be going over the top 5, and as you can see here on my screen, I have it pulled up for you. It's going to be CCHWF, TCNNF, GTBIF, CURLF, and PURA. And I will be putting these down in the description below as well. So let's understand my madness. Why am I on 15 pot stocks right now? Well, to truly grasp the capability of the eventual explosion that I think that this industry is going to happen, you must understand the why of the situation. So why am I thinking like this? Well, 1, the recent studies that say cannabis can inhibit COVID, I take that with a grain of salt, mainly because I have an article I will show you here in a second, where the studies that were performed aren't 100% foolproof. They're lackluster in some way, shape, or form, but at the same time, it's getting eyes on the potential to have legitimate studies and clinical studies on marijuana with COVID. Next is the increasing legalization and decriminalization of cannabis throughout the U.S. and not just the U.S., worldwide. It's becoming very, very popular all around the world to have marijuana legal, just because it has so many benefits and so few downsides. It's less harmful to you than drinking alcohol. And then finally, the Safe Bank Act is a huge act. When I, at one point in my life, was wanting to open up a dispensary, and I was in Arkansas, and the act that got passed in Arkansas made it impossible for me. I had to have something like $500,000 of liquid assets just to open up a dispensary and $1 million just to open up a cultivation farm. Something stupid like that. But whenever I was going through the process of looking for small business loans, looking for capabilities of starting up a business, whenever I would go talk to banks, they would shy away from me as soon as I say a marijuana dispensary. And that's been a big issue throughout, since marijuana has really started to become legal. Honestly, since the big boom in Colorado with the recreational legalization of marijuana, it's just hard to get financing. So the Safe Bank Act is actually in Congress right now, and it's in the process of approval to help assist cannabis-centered businesses get funding from banks without having to worry about the banks not wanting to fund a quote-unquote drug. So with with that, let me go ahead and get into some of these articles that I want y'all to see. So our first one, it's not really an article, it is the Safe Bank Act, and I will link all these articles down below. But the Safe Bank Act to create protections for depository institutions that provide financial services to cannabis-related legitimate businesses and service providers for such businesses and for other purposes. So essentially saying that giving the banks a safety net to provide financial services to cannabis business. Because the banks were saying, oh, we don't want to fund you because it's federally illegal. Which makes sense because banks are federal, most of them. You know, so there are some banks that don't, but I digress. So it's kind of giving you the terms of what they can. So it's essentially saying they cannot terminate or limit the deposit insurance or share insurance of a depository institution under the Federal Deposit Insurance Act to take either advice action against a depository institution under the Section 8 of the Federal Deposit Insurance Act solely because the depository institution provides or has provided financial services to a cannabis-related legitimate business or service provider. So it's providing banks so they can provide financial services to cannabis businesses, and I think that's awesome. But I'm not going to go through this whole act. It's an act with that. This could be a whole video on itself. So what I'm going to do is what I like to do is give y'all the breadcrumbs and y'all go find the whole cookie yourself. So this link will be down in the description below. So the next link I have is about the Safe Care Act, and is the Safe Banking Act even worth it? Is it going to be even really necessary? And this article is actually written by the Motley Fool on November 18th, 2019. And essentially they're talking about things like Columbia Care. And Columbia Care is a ticker that we're going to be going over. And they launched their own credit card program earlier this year, where the card is limited to Columbia Care's own dispensaries. And it's an example of how companies can find creative ways to avoid dealing with cash every time a transaction is made. Payments are made on a card using online services, Kilkin Pay. So there's ways to get there. Dispensaries are finding ways to get around not having to be able to properly bank by having their own types of credit cards. And I honestly think Curaleaf Holdings is going to be a major player here. And like I said, we'll get to that here in a bit. I will break down the tickers here in a second. So my next article that I want to go over is actually the state laws, which states have recently passed legislature to pass either legalize or decriminalize marijuana. And look, it's Vermont, Virginia, New York, Connecticut, Alabama, and Kentucky. And so Virginia has decriminalized up to an ounce of marijuana, imposing a $25 fine instead of possible jail time, which essentially it's don't get caught with it. In Vermont, the Senate House approved different versions to regulate marijuana sales. Conference was approved to harmonize the bills, and the Speaker of the House legislator will continue to work on the issue in August. So they're looking to regulate the possession and cultivation of marijuana in Vermont. New York, they proposed including legislation in the state's budget. However, the budget ultimately did not include it. It is unlikely but possible that legislation will be taken up this year. So New York is looking at it, but just based off a whole lot of what's happened this year, it's kind of hard. Connecticut, the governor sponsored a legalization bill for the first time in 2020. However, the legislation session was also disrupted by virus-related precautions and has adjourned. So Connecticut was supposed to be talking about it, but the virus caused them to put it on hold. And Alabama and Kentucky's House of Reps both approved medical cannabis bills, but were both derailed by the virus. So that's how come a lot of people are like, well, pot stocks aren't really moving this year. It's because the virus has killed a lot of this legislation that was going to make 2020 420 friendly. Like, make 2020 420. That's great. So it's on the works. Most of the US wants it. It's honestly dumb if they don't want it to happen. Like right down here, polls showing that 67% of Americans support making marijuana use legal, and around 90% support allowing medical marijuana. What the crap? That is the majority of the United States of America. And if it's a majority rules state. We're a democracy. I mean, technically we're a republic, but still, this is showing that the support of marijuana is very, very strong. All right, so next I want to touch on the cannabis and COVID studies. This is actually a very interesting study that I found, and it was published on June 10th, 2020 by Matthew Elms, PhD. And like I said, again, this is going to be linked in the description. It is a .org. I like to do most of my research on .orgs. And they're just essentially saying that there's red flags. Before even reading the article, there's a few glaring red flags. Article published. As a scientist, you're using the term journal pretty loosely in this case because it's not peer-reviewed. So it's not really a journal. It's just speculation or my study, essentially. And he just goes on and on about like how it wasn't quite right looking into this and looking into these studies. And he sums it up and he says, despite the news headlines you read, the cannabis scientist will tell you that we're very far off from considering cannabis as a legitimate candidate for preventive or therapeutic treatment of COVID-19 infections. Just read this article. Give it a read. It's very, very informative on what to look at whenever you're looking into scientific studies. You can't just take a headline at face value. You've got to learn. You've got to look into what it actually is meaning, because everybody's going to say that they're hot shit in a bag of chips, but nobody's going to say that they're not that great. So with that, I got my last article, made by Talk Markets, by Lorimer Wilson, Sunday, July 5th, 2020. So that was today at 1:28 p.m. Eastern. And they're just talking about how the pot stocks have not really done very well this year. And most of them are down year to date. And honestly, what I'm going to be going over is most of these stocks. CCHWF, GTBIF, Green Thumb, Trulieve, TCNNF. All these are up right now, and they're multi-state operators. While 11 of them, most of them are down 14% on average, while these are up. Then we're going to, and I believe that's all the ones that I'll be going over today. There's a couple more that I'll be going over later, but these three are my big watches. Columbia, Green Thumb, and Trulieve, because they are making some massive moves. Massive moves. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into Benzinga Pro and do some, basic analysis on these stocks. And the first one I want to do is Columbia Care. Who is Columbia Care? Well, we come down here. Columbia Care Inc. in the United States is a United States-based cultivator, manufacturer, and provider of medical cannabis products and services. Some of these products are vaporization oil, sublingual tinctures, lotions, hand-pressed tablets, and suppositories, as well as others. So they have a pretty big, business. What is their, since it is an OTC, Benzinga Pro doesn't have all the information here, so why don't we just go to the OTC markets, CCHWF. Their market cap is $30 342 million. Their outstanding shares is 136 million, while their float is 80 million. So that means there's some restricted shares in there, and then there's also some held at DTC. So our total float comes down to 80 million, and that's not bad. So let's look at some of their financials coming down here. Their cash on hand is 26 million. And their long-term debt is 12 million. Their total assets is 408 million. They have more cash than they have debt. This is a good-looking balance sheet to me. I mean, their EPS is not bad. It's not horrible, and they are a growing company. So that's some things that I like to look at. I like to look at their average volume. Their average volume is 46,000. And let's go to OTC markets and see what they let's go to their quote and see what their volume was just on Friday or Thursday. All right, their volume was about 30,000. So about around the same average volume. So I don't expect this to really start popping off until more volume hits. I mean, I'm not a fan of low volume. I love low, it is kind of a low float, going back to the company profile, 80 million. I mean, it's not too low of a float, honestly. The lowest float that the lowest float you want in an OTC market is about 10 million. 80 million would be about a mid to high float. And I would want more volume to come in here before anything happens. Before I decide to play it that much. But it's definitely a stock to look at. So let's go back to Benzinga and see what's going on here. We see that they had a webcast on June 24th. I mean, they don't have a whole lot of news. And they announced a second thing of financing, raising over 54 million in aggregate. So they're making moves. It wasn't a toxic financing. It was actually pretty good for them. So I would keep this on watch. I would keep them on watch. If they start to get more volume, definitely a great play. Now next, let's go to Trulieve. Trulieve Cannabis Corp. Who are they? Trulieve Cannabis Corp is a vertically integrated seed, sale, and fully licensed medical marijuana company. It is mainly engaged in the cultivation, possession, use, sale, distribution, and distribution of medical cannabis. They really started off in Florida. And their headquarters is in Florida. Let's take a look at their website. We didn't do that with Columbia Care, but y'all can go and look up Columbia Care's website yourself. They're hiring, woohoo! So that means they're looking for growth. 250 part-time, full-time employee positions now available. That's a pretty decent sized positions to be hiring for. They can find a doctor to help you get your medical marijuana, and they're mainly right now they're only in Florida. So you can only imagine. Florida, California, Massachusetts, Connecticut. You can only imagine whenever they start breaking through into other places. I mean, very, very clean looking setup, very professional looking. This company is going to have legs. I already like what I see, and you have all their dispensaries right here. So they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 23, 26, 29, 32, 35, 38, 41, 44, 47, 40, 50, 51. They have 51 freaking dispensaries. This is not a small operation. This is not an operation to overlook. Benzinga doesn't show us our float, but let's look at their financials. $100 million of cash on hand, 131 debt. So they are a little bit lower in debt, but they have 640 million in total assets. This company is big. Their EPS is 0.130. They're making money. Their net income, $13 million. They've grown 400. Their EPS has grown 470% over the year. And if what I'm saying to you doesn't really, resonate with you, then I don't know what to say. So since they are an OTC, let's check them out on OTC markets. Let's look at their details. Their market cap is almost $500 million, so $493 million. Their float is this is a low float. This is something that I want to see. 29.22 million as a float. So let's look at their overview. Let's see what's happened. Their recent volume didn't do that much. Their average volume is 183, so they did about their average volume. But if we look at our overview and we look at our chart, I mean, they're looking to explode. Yes, they dropped with the whole market. But this, I mean, it is kind of a sideways action movement, but man, they've only been around since early 2019. And they're a $12 stock right now, and they've been able to come back. It dropped all the way down to mid to low fives, and they bounced back to 12s. This is going to be a powerhouse. I think this is going to be a powerhouse. This is going to be the next biggest pot mover. And I also read a few analyst ratings that were saying that Trulieve is going to, they're giving analyst ratings at $52. This is going to be a powerhouse play. This is going to be my top watcher on my watch list. I will have this consistently on my weekly, on my daily, on my monthly. No matter what, I'm going to keep an eye on Trulieve. Now let's look at a little bit of the news that they've put out. So let's go back to here to Trulieve and look at this article. Body and Mind and Trulieve are celebrating new store openings. Body and Mind I'll be going over to in my next video, but Trulieve opens its 53rd retail location. Like and opening day they will offer 25. That's pretty cool. But they're growing. They're expanding, and this is only in 4 states. Imagine whenever they get out of mainly in Florida. Right now they're mainly in Florida, but just imagine whenever they break out of Florida. It's just going to be exponential growth. So next, let's look at Curaleaf Holdings. Curaleaf Holdings. Who are they? What do they do? Why do they do? Curaleaf Holdings is headquartered out of Wakefield, Massachusetts, and cultivates and sells medicinal and recreational cannabis in the U.S. The company has operations in 23 states, including the assets from the PURA Select and Grassroot acquisitions. Curaleaf offers multiple products under their brands: Curaleaf, Curaleaf Hemp, and UKU Craft Cannabis. The company does not currently export to the global medical market as Canadian cannabis producers typically do. So it's a US-based company, and they are just selling out of US. Let's look at our max. Well, the max, September 18th. September 18th, or 18 is whenever they came out on September 30th. and they're down a bit off their highs, but I mean, they're still up. 23 states. Just think about that. 23 states and growing. And it's still an OTC. Y'all remember what happened back in 2017 whenever cannabis really started taking off? Remember all these low float, tiny little pot stocks that went up into the hundreds, like ACB? History repeats, my friends. That's all I'm saying. History repeats, and it's looking good for the US market. That's all I really can say. So let's look at their let's do it again. So let's copy, let's go back to the OTC markets, paste. Here, I'm sorry about that. So let's look at Curaleaf's financials. Let's see what they're all about. All right, their market cap 2.6 billion. Their float 83 million. For that kind of a market cap, that is an awesome float. I would still call this a low float just because of how big their market cap is. Let's look at their overview. Let's go to their volume. Their volume, they did a $305 in volume, or 305 volume. Not that great. Let's see their the quote details. So their average volume. Oh, so they did about their average volume. Again, these stocks, they have a high float, low volume. You want to stay away from because they're not super liquid, but I think they'll be great option plays, in my opinion. Let's look at it here. Same pattern as the others, just a huge crack, and then it's coming up off of its highs, and it looks like it's on the verge of a breakout, if possible. We'll see if it can keep it up, but it's what I'm seeing is potential. I'm seeing all this potential in these marijuana stocks as marijuana is starting to kick off around the whole US and slowly becoming federally legal. I think there's nothing but goodness coming from these. So let's look at Curaleaf's, like I said, Wakefield, Massachusetts, they're out. Let's look at their website. Steps taking time. I am 21 years of older, and you know, they're just some 420 friendly people, and let's, you know, look for quote unquote investors. Let's see what they have to talk to us about. So there are 17 operating states, 57 local dispensaries, 15 cultivation sites, 24 processing sites, 165K registered patients, and $1,150 active wholesale dispensary accounts, or 50, no, not dollars, I'm sorry. So, I mean, that's good. That's information. Let's look at our analyst coverage. What are they saying? Like, oh, well, I'm not going to go too deep into this. I can just look at what I need from Benzinga. So let's look at their cash on hand. $176 million. Long-term debt is about twice that, $274 million, but their total assets is $1.29 billion. Their EPS is only negative 0.03, which isn't super bad, and they're losing minus $15 million. So they're hemorrhaging money, but I mean, 15 million on a market cap of what, 3.11 billion is nothing really to spit at. You have to put it all in perspective. And I just think that this is just really amazing for the cannabis community. The fact that they have so many businesses and they're growing so many dispensaries, cultivation sites, it's just going to explode. Now, lastly, let's look at PURA. I'm interested in PURA, and PURA is probably going to be my play of this week. A penny stock. Literally a penny stock. You had a 500,000 block trade at the ask. Why am I so excited about PURA? And it is this news. Before I even get into the key financials, this is what the news is. Alright. So, Puration Inc. today announced its first step of a multi-step deal to merge Pura's cannabis cultivation spin-off with NCM Biotech. It is anticipated to close by the end of next week, so this week. Pura has previously spun off its cannabis cultivation operation to Noviu, and it is now unwinding that deal and moving forward with a new deal structured to include resolving the delayed issue of a planned dividend to Pura shareholders. NCM Biotech is a subsidiary of Cali Extracts, which we will be going over in my either second or third part. Looks like part 2. And it's being merged with Pura's cannabis spinoff. The terms of the planned merger transaction between Pura Cannabis Cultivation's operation and NCM Biotech includes as a planned issue of dividends to Pura shareholders. Spinoffs are great. Spinoffs are amazing. If you hear of a spinoff, you want to be in that trade. Yes, it is Pura's subsidiary, but for them to be their subsidiary, they are going to be making money off of it. And we see their max. Like, they haven't really done a whole lot of movement. Their 2-day, I mean, they're still not doing a whole lot of movement. But for a spinoff, I really, 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 really like the idea of being in on this. I want to be in on this, and I want to be in on Cali, because I think they both have room for explosive growth. And like I said, part 2 will be covering Cali, so if you want my in-depth analysis on Cali, you're going to have to stick around and watch that. But with that, let's look at Puration. Dallas, Texas, Puration.com. Who are they? What do they do? The cannabis brands. Oh, their website looks like trash. This I hate this up here. So cannabis beverage business plan. So they want to make cannabis beverages and all that fun stuff. CBD infused sports drinks, THC cannabis drinks, all that fun jazz. Puration Inc. is engaged in the business of researching, designing, developing, producing, marketing, and distributing products and systems to improve quality of water used daily by people around the world. The company designs and produces personal use water filter bottles and other containers, and has developed into I can't say that word. Technology for water filtration and purification. So it's a water company, a water purification company. Why are they getting into cannabis? Well, that's why I said subsidiaries. Their subsidiaries are doing this. So Pura would be a good place to look at, but Kelly is going to be awesome as well. And let's look at this right here. Pura is building a CBD brand for $2 trillion horizontal market. This was June 30th. I think this is going to be a good play to look at, especially on a 1.2 cent stock. Like, come on. So let's go ahead and go to OTC Markets and look at a little bit more of their financials. So PURA. Alright, company profile. Alright, their market cap's $8.5 million. Float, that's a high float. That's a high float. After seeing that, it makes me not really want to play it that much. What's their overview? They didn't even come anywhere close to their float, but they did 4 million in volume. Still not enough float for float rotation for me. So I'd probably, I'd sit on it. I'd wait on it. I would be more interested in Cali. But this high float, low cost, with a spinoff coming on. So typically, in my experience, whenever a spinoff happens, it's actually good for the company. So I would definitely be looking into PURA and Kelly. Definitely. And last but not least, Green Thumb. Green Thumb Industries Inc. Who are they? Green Thumb Industries is headquartered in Chicago, Illinois, and produces and sells medicinal and recreational cannabis through wholesale and retail channels in the United States. It has a presence in 12 states and operates in over 40 cannabis stores under the Chains and Rise and Essence. The Chains, Rise and Essence. It is focusing its expansion on limited license states with large populations and does not currently export to the global market due to the U.S. federal prohibition. It offers multiple products under a portfolio of cannabis consumer packages goods brands, including Dr. Solomon's Dog Walkers and Bebo. So they're another, it's just another marijuana company. $10 OCT stock. Well, let's look at their financials. Let's look at GTBIF. So we'll go up here and type in GTBIF. Green Thumb Industries. So their market cap, $1.4 billion. Their float's $87 million. That's not bad whatsoever. It's a little high, but it's not bad. Let's look at their average volume. It's way under their float. Not that great, but it's a penny stock. It's marijuana stock. They have not been doing that great recently. I want to see more volume in these. More volume equals more volatility equals possible gains for us. So let's pull up their website, Chicago, Illinois. They're based out of, and let's see what it looks like. Well-being throughout. Oh yeah, I agree. I am 21 years of age. Well-being throughout the power of cannabis. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. I wish I was him. I'm jealous. But I mean, they look like they're having. Fine, I'll accept the cookies. Jesus. They're growing, and here you can see their states: California, Nevada. Then we got Colorado here, Illinois, Pennsylvania. What is that? South Carolina, North Carolina. Is that Michigan? I don't know. I don't know my states. I don't know locations. I know stocks. All I care about is stocks. And this stock is going to be a runner too. Once COVID starts coming back, honestly, all it really takes is maybe one or two legitimate studies about COVID and marijuana, and it's going to boom. It takes the Safe Bank Act actually being passed, and then it's going to boom. It takes the eventual legalization federally until it's going to explode. And these are growing companies. These are the companies that are just starting to get their foothold in the door. Unlike ACB. We'll take a look at ACB just for shigs. I actually am going to go over ACB in part 3. But just for example, ACB, Aurora Cannabis, ACB. So Aurora Cannabis, when you look at their max term, they started off as a shitty stock too. They started off as a $4 stock. This is a Canadian cannabis company. Then they started to run up to the 20s, and then they skyrocketed, triple topped and cracked completely all the way back down to right before, complete and total death. If ACB gets into America, I honestly think that they can run, but that's a discussion for part 3. But this is the price action that I'm going to be looking for these stocks to do. Honestly, I wouldn't be effed up in putting $100 a share in a small penny stock and just let it run. See what happens. A 12-cent stock, like, there's only 2 things that's going to happen. I can lose my $100, or it can run up to $10 and I make a whole lot of money. And that's how I see it. I know it's a gamble at that point. That's me being a gunslinger, being like, let me gamble at this. But at the same time, these are no way, shape, or form am I saying that these are going to be running next week. Besides Kelly. I think Kelly's going to run next week, and the week after. Cali, I'm sorry. But I'm saying that these are something that you want to be watching. You're going to want to put these on your watch list. So, with that being said, that's all I have for this episode. I do not want to take 2 hours talking, 2.5 hours talking about these stocks. I do want to break this up a little bit. I know this video is going to be about 41 minutes long, but I do appreciate you watching. And if y'all do stick around right here at the end, I do want to show y'all a way to get this amazing software that I'm using, Benzinga Pro, for 25% off. So just stay tuned. Thank y'all so much for watching, fam. Love you so much, and thank you so much for the continuous support. Peace.
Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drip, yeah, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus.
Are you tired of getting in hot moving stocks late? Does your current breaking news software break your bank? Getting fed up with poor software performance? Well, ditch what you have now for Benzinga Pro, the fastest and most reliable breaking news source on the web. With a fully customizable workstation and on-time push notifications to your desktop, you will never be late again catching that hot stock. Benzinga Pro beats its competitions hands down in both performance and customer support. Click on the link in the description and use code MADAZ25 for 25% off Benzinga Pro for life. Want to test it out before you buy? No worries. You can try Benzinga Pro 2 weeks free with no obligations. No credit card information needed, just an email address and your phone number. Sign up today and make more money.